And honestly, there's another layer to this story that makes it even darker if you really think about it long enough. Because this wasn't just about money disappearing. This was about identity. The OP spent his entire childhood building his life around a future his parents promised him existed. Think about that psychologically for a second. Imagine making decisions for years based on trust in people who secretly already decided your sacrifices were negotiable. That changes the way somebody sees reality itself. Because once you realize the foundation under your life was fake, your brain starts questioning everything else too. Were the compliments real? Were the promises real? Did they actually believe in him? Or did they just believe he was easier to disappoint? That's the type of thought process stories like this create. And honestly, I think that's why family betrayal cuts deeper than almost anything else. Strangers can scam you financially, and it hurts. Relationships can end, and it hurts. But when your own parents betray you, it attacks your understanding of safety itself. Parents are supposed to be the one group of people who are genuinely invested in your future without conditions. So when that trust breaks, it creates this weird emotional confusion where people feel guilty for being angry, while also feeling destroyed internally. And manipulative families depend on that confusion. That's why so many victims of family betrayal stay quiet for years. Because society teaches people that protecting family harmony matters more than protecting themselves. They're still your parents. Family makes mistakes. You only get one family. Bro, people say those phrases like they magically erase trauma. But being biologically related to someone does not automatically make their actions acceptable. And honestly, I think one reason stories like this go viral is because a lot of people secretly grew up in homes where love felt conditional. Maybe not openly, maybe not intentionally, but conditional. The child who performed well got approval. The child who caused chaos got attention. The responsible child became invisible because everyone assumed they'd be fine. That dynamic exists in millions of homes. And the scary part is, a lot of parents don't even realize they're doing it until their adult children emotionally disappear from their lives later. Because favoritism rarely feels obvious while it's happening. It feels like practical decisions, temporary sacrifices, helping the struggling child, until years later one kid realizes they carried emotional weight the entire family placed on them without consent. And honestly, I think a lot of strong people secretly become emotionally numb because of situations exactly like this. People praise resilience constantly in America. You're strong, you'll figure it out, you can handle pressure. But nobody talks enough about how exhausting it is, always being the person expected to survive everything. Eventually, being strong stops feeling like a compliment and starts feeling like abandonment with better marketing. Because the strong child still needs protection too. They still need honesty. They still need fairness. But families sometimes unconsciously punish capable children by assuming they require less care. And over time, that creates adults who stop asking for help completely. Adults who become hyper-independent because depending on people stopped feeling safe years ago. And honestly, that's another reason this story matters beyond just Reddit entertainment. Stories like this explain why some people struggle with relationships later, why they struggle trusting partners, why they struggle believing anybody truly has their best interests at heart. Trauma teaches people patterns. If the people closest to you were willing to sacrifice your future for someone else's comfort, your brain naturally becomes defensive forever afterward. And honestly, I think social media has made this problem even worse in modern families because now everybody compares children constantly. One child looks successful, another looks fragile, another struggles mentally, another struggles financially, and parents start redistributing emotional energy unequally while convincing themselves it's temporary. But children notice everything, especially unfairness. Kids are way more emotionally observant than adults realize. They notice tone differences, patience differences, excuse differences. They notice who gets forgiven instantly and who gets lectured, and eventually those patterns become impossible to ignore. That's why some adults can describe favoritism from memories when they were literally 8 years old. Those emotional moments stay forever. And honestly, one thing that really bothered me in this story was how the parents kept trying to frame themselves as morally good people despite the betrayal. That's incredibly common in toxic family systems. Nobody wants to see themselves as the villain. So instead of admitting they betrayed one child, they emotionally rewrite the situation into, "We did what we had to do." But survival decisions don't erase accountability. They had years to tell the truth. Years to stop draining the account. Years to create boundaries with the younger brother. Instead, they chose the easier emotional path over and over, because confronting the irresponsible child probably felt harder than disappointing the responsible one. And honestly, that happens everywhere. In families, in workplaces, in relationships. Responsible people often get punished precisely because they are responsible. People assume they'll recover, adapt, endure. But eventually, even the strongest people hit a point where they emotionally disconnect completely. And once someone reaches emotional indifference, relationships rarely recover after that. That's why the ending of this story honestly feels more sad than dramatic. No huge revenge, no screaming finale, no movie ending, just distance, quiet distance. And real life is full of endings like that. Families don't always explode loudly. Sometimes they slowly fade apart because trust died years earlier and nobody truly repaired it. And honestly, I think parents underestimate how permanent broken trust becomes once children become adults. Kids forgive easier because they depend on you. Adults start evaluating relationships differently. They start asking themselves difficult questions. Do I actually feel respected around these people? Do I feel safe? Do I feel valued equally? And if the answer becomes no enough times, emotional separation begins naturally. That's why toxic parents are often shocked when their adult children become distant. They remember the child version of their kids. They forget adults eventually gain perspective. And perspective changes everything. Suddenly, childhood moments that seem normal start looking deeply unhealthy. Favoritism becomes visible. Manipulation becomes visible. Emotional guilt becomes visible. And honestly, the internet has probably accelerated that awareness massively. Millions of people now read stories like this and realize, wait, my family did similar things. That recognition is powerful. Because for years, many people normalized emotional mistreatment simply because it came from family. But being related to someone should raise the standard of trust, not lower it. And honestly, if there's one final thing this story proves, it's that unresolved family dysfunction never stays contained. It spreads into every part of life: careers, mental health, relationships, confidence, self-worth. People carry these wounds for decades sometimes while pretending they're fine. But underneath, a lot of adults are still grieving the realization that the people they trusted most were capable of hurting them deeply, while expecting gratitude afterward. And honestly, that might be one of the loneliest feelings a person can experience.